I remember Samuel Leeds said he would give me a call. Assistant head of year. He come to me and said, take your phone off you. But I was explaining to him, right, I've got a call with this multi-millionaire. And as I was explaining to him, he mocked me again. Why is a 50-year-old man mocking a just turned 14-year-old trying to change his whole life? That's his 3-month wage.
Yeah.
And that's only one of my 4 properties. People are so brainwashed. When they see someone doing well, they start hating on them.
What you're saying is like, we don't realise how deep this conditioning goes.
School for me was a bad memory. I hated the whole thing.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Unemployed Podcast, where we talk about the journey to financial independence and becoming self-unemployed. My guest today is known as the youngest landlord in the country. There's been some debate about that, but I guess we'll talk about it with my previous guest, Billy Cooner. But anyway, Kaine Harris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Yeah. Now, we haven't really talked before.
No.
Most of the guests I've had before, I sort of know a bit. We've only really talked about you coming on the podcast. So, yes, tell us a bit. I have obviously heard your story, which is incredible and inspiring. So, tell us more about that.
Yes. So, basically, I wanted to get into property when I was having like bad times in school. And then I kind of wanted to change my whole like family's narrative of money. And then so I started going to these like £1 events, so basically free. I had no money myself, but I was going to these events, and then they were selling like online courses. Yeah. And so forever I started saving up for these courses. It led me into starting an Amazon business, where it did really well. It started making like £30,000 in my first year.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but it took too much time. So I was like 14, 15.
Yeah, but hang on a minute. You made 30 grand in part-time while you were at school. Yeah. Because you were, at school and this is on the side. So that's pretty good. I mean, a lot of people don't make that in their full-time jobs. Yeah,
true. And then it was sort of like, it was time efficient, and I always wanted something that I didn't have to spend too much time in.
Yeah.
So my Amazon, as much as it was part-time, I couldn't do anything else. It was school, Amazon. Yeah. And then kind of near the back end of it, when I wasn't doing that much on it, the sales started dropping. So because I was training for a boxing fight. So I'd do training in the morning, sort some Amazon orders out, go to school, finish, go to training, and then the Amazon would just get left behind. I'd like customers that I've left undelivered for like a week. And then Amazon are calling me up saying, right, you need to sort this out. And then I'm like, right, I need to scrap this Amazon thing off. Yeah. Because it was too...
It's a bit of a... Yeah, it's like a commitment, and you get an order and you've got to deal with it straight away. Yeah. I've done a little bit of it myself. So let's tell me more about that. What were you selling and how did you get into that?
When I first started, air fryers were like a big craze. Because when the air fryers first dropped, they went... crazy.
I remember it was weird. It was when the energy price went up. Yeah. And then everyone was like, "Oh, air fryers are much cheaper to run than an oven." Yeah.
And then so they come out. But I was buying them with B&M for like £20, and I'd sell them for like 65. And obviously, I've got my shipping fees, my Amazon fees, taxes, and all that stuff. Yeah. I was still making at least £25 profit per order. So that was a really great startup. And then, so that air fryers alone would have cost me around 8,000 in sales, or made me. Yeah. And then from that, I just started selling loads of different things in different stores. So like, so my business model was, I wouldn't buy the product until I got the order. Oh, but in order for me to do that, I'd have to only use products from like Tesco, B&M, Home Bargains, and all these different types of stores. So I can get an order on the day, and then run into the store, quickly package it, and then send it to the Royal Mail in order so they get it in the next 2 days. Then my reviews will go up, and then once you get better reviews, better delivery rates, then you start making more orders. Yeah. So I kind of understood like the algorithm and stuff, but again, it was too hands-on. Yeah. And it was too customer.
Especially if you're buying to order. Yeah. Physically, not like drop shipping. Yeah. But so that strategy is called retail arbitrage, where you're actually buying from other shops, but then selling it at a profit. Yeah, I did a little bit of that. I used to sell Lego, but my strategy was it was a terrible strategy because I realized it wasn't too bad, but I realized that Lego sets, when they stop making them, when they stop making a particular set, the price goes up because they're very collectible. Yeah. And they can be quite rare, and sometimes they can go up a lot. So I bought this like big orange Lego Porsche for like £125 or something, and that was reduced. I think I got like 50% off. I bought that on Amazon. I bought 3 of them because they were quite cheap, and then I sold them for like £300 of a couple of, but it was years later, months or years later, you know. But now those sets are like £1,000 because they're quite rare ones.
Okay.
But the problem with that is you got money tied up in stock for can be a couple of years before they really go anywhere. Yeah. And you know, you never know if you've got to have good storage because they can get damaged and stuff. So it's
And also for like a startup, if you was going to do it as a startup business, it's good for learning how to deal with customers and stuff. Yeah. But it's really, unless you actually start with 10, 20,000, you can't scale that much. Yeah. Because say for example, you were still doing the retail way and you were still buying once you got orders in, and you have that one golden product where you go to the store and be like, right, you know, you're going to sell 10 of them tomorrow. So you're just going to buy 30 and hopefully you don't have to go back to the store for the rest of the week. Because obviously, for me, it was trying to be hands off as possible. But it's hard to scale when if you ordered loads in, say for example, I got 100 orders for air fryers tomorrow. One B&M store doesn't have 100 air fryers. So if I'm based in Chester, I've got to drive to Wrexham, Liverpool, Manchester, Crewe, just to get these air fryers. And I can't do that. I can't even drive. My mum's driving me around. So then it goes...
she's getting annoyed.
Yeah, my mum's getting annoyed. My nana's wrapping all the gifts for me. Well, gifts. My nana's... She's
fulfilling the orders.
Yeah, she's wrapping all the orders. I'm sorting all the online stuff. It was kind of like a family-run business. But it wasn't scalable. It wasn't making all of us money.
Did you ever think about doing FBA?
Yeah.
But I mean, then you've got to buy all the orders
and then that's how it's hard to scale. But I did try FBA, and then their fees, they charge like double the fees.
Yeah, but you've got to remember their fees include shipping, packaging, and the time it takes. So you can put 10 air fryers in a box, send it to Amazon, which is a lot less time than wrapping each one individually. Yeah. And then your fees include the postage cost. True. So I realized that with the Lego sets, like I would probably have spent the Amazon fee just on the postage, and then I got to find boxes and stuff and spend and then like we said earlier, you've got to effectively be on call when you get an order because you've got to get it out the door as quickly as possible. Whereas you know with FBA that's just all getting done automatically for you, but you've got to buy the stock in advance, so you've got money.
It's sort of something that you'd have to save for. Maybe if you had 10 grand. Ship them hundreds of stuff that you know is going to sell. Yeah. But then also you got to compete with other people's prices on Amazon because, say for example, you and me are both selling the same air fryer, same B&M store, same air fryer. You're selling them for £64. I'm selling them for $63.99. I'm going to get the sales because I'm at the top of the buy box. Yeah. On the Amazon, obviously they have a buy box. Even if they click on yours, it will literally say, "Oh, there's a cheaper one available. There's a cheaper one on the buy box." So even that's 1p. You have to keep lowering your prices, and Amazon won't do that on their own. So that's why the business is always like, you always have to keep at it.
Amazon wants the customers to find the best price. Yeah. Because it's all the same to them because they're not the ones selling it. They're selling it, but it's not their stuff that they're selling.
Yeah, they've got their own fees. They make their money through deliveries and so like for Amazon, they don't care how much the products sell for. So and then some products will be hot, like air fryers were really hot. I started selling them at £65, but then they dropped to like $49.99, then $39.99.
Because more and more sellers were realizing the opportunity and coming in and competing.
And then it got to the point where the shops I was buying them from, they were the same price, if not cheaper, on Amazon. So I was like, oh, what's happened here? But then the actual owners of these companies just started selling on Amazon. So it's a very hot business when you first get into it, but then it dies off and you have to find new products. So
when you find an opportunity, it's hot. Yeah. I remember I first got into it with doing secondhand books. And this was like when Amazon first launched Amazon Marketplace in like 2006. And then I stopped doing it for a long time before I did the Lego. But yeah, I was going to these auctions that sold like lost property, and I was trying to buy bikes and fix them up and then sell them. I was flipping bikes and then selling them on eBay. It was stupid. It was they had the contract for selling lost property from Transport for London. So, and the first items that they'd bring out were these like big bags of books that people had left on buses in the underground and stuff, and no one was interested in them. So, and then a friend of mine was saying that he's selling books that he was getting from a charity shop on Amazon, but he was only doing like 1 or 2 books at a time. And I was like, I can buy this big bag of like 500 books all chucked in a bin bag for like £5. And we can stick them on Amazon Marketplace because it had just launched at the time, so no one else was doing it, and it went really, really well to start with. But within a year, like you said, the prices, and you end up selling it for 1p, but you still make a little bit of money on the postage. So that's how we were making money. But then also at the auction, I started getting competition at the auction, whereas before no one was interested in buying these books. Suddenly, what I got for £5 is having to spend 20 or 30 on. So we got squeezed at both ends, and it just didn't work anymore.
Yeah, I think for the Amazon business, if you look at it from a big, trying to build £1 million business, or even like drop shipping, all right, you can make thousands on it, but it's not niche. So if you're buying the product off of someone else, then that guy can sell it for cheaper than you. Why are they going to go to me when they can just go to Bosch direct? You know? So, and then, it's not as scalable as some people might think. But I do always say, every time I see someone who's like my age or a little bit younger than me, I always say to them, start off with an Amazon business because you learn a lot. For your first business, an Amazon business is so easy. It costs about £100 to start up. You need a car or you to get your mum to take you around. So start up business, Amazon business, perfect.
Yeah.
And if anyone...
Like a retail arbitrage strategy, Yeah, so it taught you a lot about business and...
And how to like reply professionally. Because when I was doing it, this was like 3 years ago, I didn't know what Ask AI was, like ChatGPT. This stuff is new. This stuff only come out like 1.5, 2 years ago. Yeah. So I couldn't get ChatGPT to start replying to my customers. I was kind of like replying on my own. I would say to my nan, I'd be like, right, do you think this is professional enough? So you miss about that, you miss about that. There's no full stop there. And it's like, so yeah, but it is definitely a good business for someone that wants to build a business mindset and stuff. Yeah. Definitely would.
It's like a paper round used to be. People, I mean, we don't really have newspapers physically anymore. You just look on the internet. But yeah, when I was a kid, I did a paper round when I was like 12, 13, 14. And yeah, so it's a bit, I guess, but that's very different though. That's more like learning how to do a job. It's not entrepreneurial. But true. It is the sort of thing that you would do if you wanted to make money when you were a kid.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So you said, people as young as you. How old are you now?
I'm 16 now. I'll be 17 next month.
17 next month. Yeah. So that's your you're still
pretty young.
Pretty young. But yeah, you've lived a life though. I just want to quickly say thank you so much for watching or listening. If you are watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and a subscribe and all that, and subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review. All those things are super useful. But if you like what you're hearing and you'd like to become self-unemployed yourself, then I'd really like to build a community. And the way that I'm doing that is I've got a free mailing list that you can join. And when we record these episodes, they're going to be put out as live streams. So you'll get to see a little bit behind the scenes. You'll get to see the episodes before they go out on the main channel and on the podcast. And you'll get to interact with us as we're recording. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, head on over to the website, links in the description. And I look forward to chatting with you as we record future episodes. Let's get back into your story. Where do you want to pick up?
I mean, if we pick up from, I say school because school taught me a lot of things, and a certain guy that had an opinion about school you'll be very familiar, Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
He was very opinionated in his opinions, and he knew how to say his opinions correctly. So I started following his message. But this is when I was just like, in year 9 in school, still doing my Amazon business. So I was listening to him, and he'd be like, work hard, don't listen to the system. I was like, right, who is the Matrix? Because he's saying like, escape the Matrix. I started Googling, what is the Matrix? Oh, it starts coming up with like a film. I was like, right, no. What is the Matrix? Kept Googling it, and I kept about to Google. It took me months to finally get into it, and obviously it's the I forgot the name. The super elites.
Yeah.
So
deep state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like these guys control the world. And then so it's kind of like I started looking into modern day slavery and start looking at like olden day slavery, modern day slavery, and like back then, slavery was you would work, but in return you get food and a house. Now people work
and you couldn't quit.
Yeah. Well, I guess you couldn't quit now, but now you have to work for money, and that money goes to be spent on food and a house. If you didn't work, you wouldn't be able to pay for your house. You wouldn't be able to pay for your food. So it's kind of like modern day slavery. So I was in school. Then I started I was never paying attention in class. I was always sat at the back, sat like this, eating at the back. I was just staring at my teacher. I was like, right, yeah, it's right. She works. She makes about $2,000 a month. She does it because she needs to pay for her food and house. So I started asking my teachers questions. I was like, how much do you make a month? And they was like, I don't want to tell you. Then the next teacher would be like, oh, I make around 1,500 a month. And then teachers would like tell me different stuff. And I started like waking up. I was like, why am I here? Like, because I'm learning about Hitler from this 60-year-old guy who's been in school his whole life. He told me, so he left school, he went to college, and he went to uni to become a teacher. Now he's in, like, that's his whole life. He went to uni and everything. And he only makes $1,500 a month. It woke me up to the whole system.
But that is normal. That's what normal people do.
I don't.
You and me aren't normal. We're the strange ones. Not.
I think. I don't think it's normal. I think it's just the system, and I think it's people.
Yeah. So people are conditioned into it rather than it being a normal human nature.
People are brainwashed into it.
Yeah.
And I think it's being brainwashed because ultimately there's another side of the argument whereas, oh, we need nurses. Someone needs to scan your food in Tesco's, for example. Someone has to flip the burgers. You know what I mean? Like, I get it.
Yeah.
Right? But that's a different side to the story. We're on a podcast about self-unemployed.
Yeah.
You make money, I make money in our own businesses. We're talking from a business point of view now, right? We're not talking about Sally who wants to be a nurse, right? I respect all nurses. Nurses, I just recovered from cancer, actually. So
That's another thing I want to get into.
Yeah. So, like, I respect what nurses do, and I love nurses. Every time I'm in the hospital, they always treat me right. They always treat me just like a little baby. Like, I love nurses, you know what I mean? Big respect for them. But when this podcast, just like I said, it's called Self-Unemployed. We're talking about business here. Do you know what I mean? So when I say it's not normal to just be working, from a perspective where I could get 2 property deals on a rent-to-rent, which cost me 15 grand all in, and then I make 2 grand a month off them deals.
Yeah.
For me,
that's a nurse's pay. Or maybe not quite, but yeah.
Yeah. For me, someone working 25 days a month, if not 30 days a month, full-time job, still making that money, I don't think it's normal. So, I wouldn't say it's normal at all.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that, well, it's almost like we need people to do jobs.
Yeah.
Like you said, we need people to flip the burgers, we need doctors, we need nurses, we need teachers. And it's almost like the deep state or the elites have like created this system and this education system which is designed to keep people to send people down a certain track, to give people the skills to do those jobs because that's what society needs.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily what's best for them.
Yeah, no.
But so the whole system is like designed to kind of hide that from them.
Yeah.
And people like you and me, we didn't do so well at school. We weren't academics. when people tell us this is how it is, instead of saying, okay, yeah, we're like, is it? And we start thinking, a bit wider.
Yeah.
And that's led us into entrepreneurship and doing things a bit differently. Now, you've realized a lot of things that I've realized much earlier in life than I did. But yeah, there's a guy called Ken Robinson who's done a couple of TED Talks. He's passed away now, but he was like a education. He used to consult the government on education and stuff.
Okay.
And he says like, yeah, the education system was designed during the Industrial Revolution because they started getting all these factories and they needed people to have different skills, because before that everyone was like farmers and things, but now they needed people to actually know maths and have a slightly different type of education. So that's when the education system was invented, to fulfill that need, because that's what the people that owned the factory, they needed people
to work.
You know. And in many ways the education system hasn't changed. It's still designed to train workers.
Yeah. And then it's sort of like in school, the reason I was getting punished so much is because I'll be the one saying to the maths teacher, why on earth am I learning how to divide fractions? I have been in business now ever since I dropped out of school, at least 7 months, right? All right, I haven't lived a life as you, but I've been in business for 7 months. I've started turning over like 30, 40 grand, right? I have never, ever had to use how to divide fractions once, and I'm sure I never, ever will, right? So I was on questioning the teachers and why I'm wasting my time doing a basketball session with these idiots that I'm in school with, right? Like, an hour playing basketball with these guys. You only play basketball for 20 minutes because everyone takes ages in the change room anyway. And we have to do it. It's legal to do it. And then other classes like geography. Come on, I don't need to learn how the deserts go up. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a waste of time. And
I mean, all those things are interesting. I mean, it is good to know, how to divide fractions or whatever, even if it's not for that, but it helps you to exercise your brain to think in a way that you can figure out problems more generally, which is useful in everything. But
I mean, the way I think of it is, well, the reason it's so bad is because someone who's 13, 14, or from the time a child is 10 to 18, that's when their mind starts thinking. And that's where they're not programmed and they're not, they haven't got any set opinions, but that's when they're in school. That's when they're in high school, and that's where they've got to suffer from bullying. I got bullied heavily in year 7. That's where they got to suffer from all this stuff, listening to teachers. And then, so why is that? It's because the super elites, I've obviously set it up that way. Why are we teaching a 6-year-old about donkeys? Like, it doesn't make sense. In my opinion. So it's the reason I think it's so bad and harming is because 14-year-old me, who wanted to go into business, I spent my whole day in school. Imagine if I was 14 and I dropped out then.
So did you already have your Amazon business up and running at that point?
Yeah. So I set it up when I was 14 at the back end of year 9 in school. And I was trading for a boxing fight near the end of year 9 as well. Set up my Amazon business, which is doing pretty well. But before that, I set up a dropshipping, like an actual dropshipping one. So I was selling lemon squeezes on my own website. So this was way before the Amazon stuff. About 6 months, well, when I say way before, about 6 months before the Amazon stuff, I started trying this website. I called it Kaine's Gadgets. But I promoted it on my Snapchat, my Instagram, and I made TikTok about it. Started making cringy TikToks about it. Everybody in the class, Kaine's Gadgets, even the teachers were mocking me. I remember my form tutor, right? I walked into form, he said, how's your Kaine's Gadgets business going? Why is a 50-year-old man mocking a just turned 14-year-old trying to change his whole life? So the system's so negative, and this is why now, when I make a video about school and passive income and slagging my teachers, this is why I'm so annoyed. This is why I genuinely think about it quite a lot, because I was getting told by my teachers, don't go into business. One of my teachers told me passive income isn't real. I was in London the other week, right? I got a £6 booking on one of my properties. That property is going to be filled for 2 months now. That was £6,000. That's his 3 months.
In 2 months.
Yeah. That's his 3-month wage.
Yeah.
And that's only one of my 4 properties.
Yeah.
So.
That's 6. When you say 6 month, 3 month booking for £6,000, that's not all profit though, is it right? Or is that the profit? Yeah.
No. So it's a £6,000 booking. Out of that, 10% goes straight to my management guy. I paid £2,000 a month rent.
Yeah.
So about £2,000 of that is my take home, but it's still really good when I have more than one. I have 4 properties now.
Yeah.
My Wolverhampton one got a £600 booking on that same day. My London property got a week booking. It was on that same week, but it's in advance. But it's passive income. I haven't got to do anything. It's all with management companies.
Yeah.
I don't deal with anything.
You've got it systemized and set up. Now we'll get more into what you're doing in property, but I still want to stick on the education thing because I think that's really important. A couple of weeks ago, you posted a video of yourself at school or on a Zoom call or something. Getting like really angry with your teachers. What was that? Tell us more about that.
So I think it was that I was having a bad time at school where I started doing stupid things online. So I started taking funny pictures with my dog and teenage boy messaging girls. You can tell what pictures were being, spread around the school. And so I was getting bullied in school, right? But in my retaliation, I would just hit people. So I'd never do it in big crowds. Still to this day, most of these guys haven't even told their friends about me hitting them, just back corridors, right? I just used to hit people. I used to get into fights all the time. But I kept getting excluded for it. And the reason I was so angry is because the school would call my mum, and my mum would have a go at me. I wasn't bothered about bloody Betty from the school shouting at me. Who cares about Mrs. Cutler or something? You know what I mean? No one cares about teachers. But it's when they call your mum, twice a day, telling them about your behaviour. Then my mum's threatening to kick me out of the house. What? I was 12. I was literally just...
Right, so this is before you had any of the Amazon...
Yeah, this was way before my business mindset and stuff. Yeah.
But I can imagine that, if you're making some money outside of school and then you at school and it's really really boring and frustrating, it must be even worse because... For most kids, it's like, well, this is just what we've got to do. This is our only option. But when you've built yourself another option, and you can see you can see another path, even at that early age, it must have been even worse and more frustrating.
And it was horrible because no one would relate to me.
Yeah,
nobody related at all. Yeah, so I was in school. I had my Amazon orders on my phone, and then I would get orders coming in, but it would be mid-lesson, so I'd check, the hairdryer's been bought. Or the air fryer's been bought, and I'll message this to my mum, right? Do you want to buy this now, or do you want to do it after school, right? And because we had to go to Costco. Costco's about 20 minutes away. I might have been busy. My mum might be getting her nails done. You know what I mean?
She might be nearby.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, should I just see if I can get a lift? Should I get a taxi? But I'll do that, and then my phone would get taken off me. And then I would have. I remember Samuel Leeds said he would give me a call during school hours. This was after the Amazon stuff.
Right.
He agreed to call me during school hours. On that day, I was buzzing. Absolutely buzzing. I was in the toilets, raving about it. I was on my phone, messaging someone. I'll be like, can't wait for this call. It's only going to be a 5-minute call. I've been begging him for this 5-minute call for months, right? And then the assistant head of year, big rugby player, teacher, right? Everybody in the school was scared of him, right? Wasn't a scary guy. He was just tall, right? And he come to me and said, I'm taking your phone off you. I was like, no, you're not. Because it was a big day for me. I was like,
you had an important call.
Yeah. I was like, no, you're not. My call is scheduled for 12:30, which is lunchtime anyway. Right? You're not taking my phone off me. Lunch is in now. You can have it after lunch. I don't care. Right? Then he sat me in his office. He said, you give me this phone now, or you're not leaving this room and I'll exclude you. So I had no choice. I give him my phone, and then I got a friend to sneak into his office to get me my phone for lunchtime, and then I still did the call. But see what I mean? I was explaining him my situation.
Yeah.
But I was explaining to him, right, I've got a call with this multi-millionaire. And I was explaining to him, he mocked me again. He said, do you think you're Alan Sugar or something? Imagine you're 40, 50 years old. You see a 15-year-old kid trying to make it.
Yeah.
And you start slagging him off. saying, you think you're out in sugar. Like, this is why I say working. This is why I don't think it's normal. Because people are so brainwashed. When they see someone doing well, they start hating on them. So it's like, they're so bitter, really. Like, really, really bitter. But they're just average with their normal life because that's what they're brainwashed to do.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is like, we don't realize how deep this conditioning goes. To the point that people just can't even see that there is another path, there's another way, there's another way of thinking, and some people are just not on that wavelength. And people, teachers who've got a job, they turn up, they do their job, they get paid, and then they haven't got time to think about anything else. They haven't got all the energy to think about anything else, or trying to do something on the side and stuff. So and I guess it's so rare for someone your age to do that, and then that's why they don't really think that it's that. They don't realize how damaging it is when they try and throw cold water on it.
And this is why, like, now, this is why I speak about school all the time now. School for me was a bad memory. I hated the whole thing. Some of the fun time, the best thing I remember about school is one of my mates getting a fire extinguisher, chasing everyone around with a fire extinguisher. That was the only thing I remember school for, right? Having fun with your mates, blasting the ball at the girls in the corner of the football pitch. Like, all that is fun, right? But if that's your only memory about school, and school's meant to teach you how to get a job, it ain't the best memory, is it? So, like, but the reason I'm so annoyed at it is because all this time, if I believe the system, right now I would have been in college or sixth form. Today is what, midday on a Tuesday? Like, I got the train to Birmingham at 12 o'clock, first class train down to Birmingham, doing a podcast. I can do whatever I want now, right? But if I was still in school,
most people, kids even your age, are at school, right?
Yeah. So, like, everyone's at school. Look, like, if I went to do this today, I'd have to email my head teacher. I might have had an important exam. I asked my friend to come today, actually. I promise you, right? I asked my friend, I said, right, I'm going on this podcast, and after there's going to be a networking event. If you want to come, you're more than welcome to. I'm getting a lift back home anyway, because you offered to give me a lift. We're getting a lift back home anyway. If you want to come. He said, yeah, but I got an important test on that day. On the day after, I'm doing this revision session in school. All right, so you would rather stay in school, do this shitty English test, instead of coming to me. There's a millionaire in that door over there, Billy Cooner, oldest landlord in the UK. So it's like, at this networking event, there's people with hundreds of £1,000s just sat in the bank ready to invest. If you found one of them for me, I would have given you £500 commission fee for a quick conversation. So, like, it's sort of, and this is how it's brainwashed, because some of my friends are okay because they understand, and they're in school because they've got no other option. Some of their parents are, from different backgrounds, and like, no, you can't leave school. But for me, I wanted to drop out when I was 14. But I said to my parents, right, I want to drop out when I'm 14. And I said, right, I'm going to drop out. They said no. But it hurt me at the time. But I was like, okay.
Because that's not even legal, is it? I think you have to.
No, it isn't.
You're at least 16, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's 18 now, to be honest. But
how come you're here?
I'll get to that in just a second. Right?
Yeah, I think I know where you're going with
that. Yeah. And so my nana said no, 100% no. My mum said 100% no. Right, so I was like, right, I'm stuck in school. Let me try and enjoy school. Let me try and make a few friends. And I did. We had a big friend group. That was cool. But I thought in my head, okay, what if I start making loads of money before school finishes, and by the time I'm 16, I can F my GCSEs off. And I can say to my parents, right, look, I'm making this money. What's the point of me going to school? I make more than you now. Yeah. Right? What's the point of me going to school? You went to school. You went to school. He went to school. Right? There's no point in me staying in. So I dropped out when I was 16. When I dropped out, I just recovered from cancer. So school was pretty hands-off with me because they would give me a lot of time off. But I also said to my head teacher on last day when I got the results, I said, right, I'm dropping out. And then he said, yeah, I thought you'd do that. But then a couple of days after, I was Googling. I was like, is there any charges? Is there any fees you have to pay for dropping out of school early? It's meant to be £50 a day. Me being cocky, I was like, you know what, I'll make that anyway. So it's sort of like, well, if they do come at me with a big surcharge, bring it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm pretty sure I should be in the clear. I should be all right.
Yeah. Let's just circle back a little bit there. So, because you said a big thing just in a flippant way, but you had cancer.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I was walking around just on an average day, and then my mum, people in school, people on buses, people on trains, even people that I was doing boxing training with would say, "Hey, you've got a lump there." Even my barber said it to me. He was, calling me.
Oh, is it that there where
Yeah,
there's a bit of a
yeah,
scar?
yeah. So everyone was pointing out to me, saying that I've got this lump. And
So
then
how big was it? Like
it was pretty popping out. I'd say it was about that big.
And you must have been aware of it. It's your face.
Yeah, I was aware of it, but it's kind of like, when something. It's kind of like if you get a spot, you don't notice it until it gets really big.
Yeah.
Like, personally, I don't look at my face all the time. So maybe as a boy, it's kind of like I don't really care that much. But people started noticing it, and then it got to a point where my mum said, right, you need to get it checked. So I got it checked, and they said, you should be fine. We'll just remove it. So after months and months, they finally removed the lump, but what they always do is a standard protocol. They just test the lump just to make sure that it's not cancerous or it hasn't got any diseases. So they tested it. Literally 2 days later, they called me and said, right, you've got an urgent appointment.
Not 2 days. 2 days after they removed it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you've got an urgent appointment. Bring a parent, bring your family. You've got an urgent appointment. I was like, oh, it's fine. So normally I'm a kid. They'll just tell you to bring your family anyway because I was 15 at the time. It's whatever. So
we're talking only less than 2 years ago.
So no, it was actually in March last year. So I was 16 actually.
Right.
So it was
less than a year ago.
It was about 10 months ago. Yeah. And so they called me in to have this thing, and then they. So they sat us down and said, right, it's unfortunate, but you've basically got cancer. Obviously, you said it in a very doctor form, right? I'm just saying it, right? I've got cancer, right?
Yeah.
So I literally looked to my mum and said, hey, that's cool, innit? So I promise you.
You
right?
said that?
Yeah. I wasn't nervous at all, right? I thought, well, look, I go through chemotherapy and it's done. Or I go through chemotherapy, I think it's done. I have to go through chemotherapy again. Then it's done. I lose my hair. Wow. I shaved my hair off after I got cancer anyway. I had nice curly hair before. I shaved it off anyway. Like, I didn't lose my hair because of cancer. I shaved it off because I wanted to anyway. So I'm not bothered if I lose my hair. I'm not bothered if, my face goes a bit disformed. I'm a boy / man anyway. Like, I'm not too fussed, right? So anyway, so I went into treatment. Took about 3 months. Through the whole process, but throughout that process,
this is the chemo.
Yeah, chemotherapy. Yeah. So, but throughout that process, before I started it, I get people tell me. I had one guy tell me. I'm not going to say where it was, but he told me, "Don't do chemotherapy. They're going to make money off you," which I agree with. They do make money off it. But he said, "Drink your own piss for a week and it will go." It's like right. So I'm not doing that. Eat celery for a week, no water. Right, I'm not doing that. So I get people give me weird advice. These like older men, like 70, 80-year-old men, they claim to be doctors and stuff, right? I'm like, right, I'm not doing
alternative therapy type things, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it would have worked, but I'm not drinking my own piss for a week. I'd rather do chemotherapy. You know what I mean? So, I had to do that. But like my family's reaction, it was, they was all crying. Like my whole family was crying. Like my family's like a bit distraught. But I would literally say to them, right? And I've said this on many videos before. I said to them, if anyone's gonna get cancer and deal with it, it would have been me, because I'm the only guy that's strong enough to go through it anyway. I'm not too fussed. If anything, it's an experience.
So, I want to think that like, if somebody had said, if I was the doctor and I just told someone they got cancer and they said, "Oh, that's cool," I would think they're crazy or they don't understand what I just said to them. But knowing you, I don't think that is the case. I think that you probably just thought, I'm going to get through this. You just have the mindset that you're going to get through this, and it didn't scare you. Like, is that the case?
It didn't scare me. I mean, when I was doing treatment, and because there was one time during treatment where this was the worst bit. I had the treatment for the second time. So this wasn't even my first treatment. This was like 3 weeks after my first one. Went back in. Then I went to sleep as they put this chemotherapy into me. I just fell asleep.
Yeah.
I was like, if I died then, I couldn't have done anything about it. I didn't even know I went to sleep. Imagine if I died then. That was the only time I was like, shit. But then all the other times after that was fine. Like, I'm not bothered about, this is getting really dark now, but I'm not bothered about me dying. I'm bothered about how my family would be after me dying. I'm not bothered.
Yeah.
Because I'd probably be a little angel flying around in space anyway. I'd be pretty cool, right? But it's about my family.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. But that was only the worst. But that was only because I fell asleep during treatment, and that's just normal anyway. So, yeah, that was the only bit about cancer. But fully recovered from cancer now. And if anyone ever gets cancer or says it, if anyone thinks that they're getting lumps and they get diagnosed with cancer, they'll always message me. Even like old school friends, they'll come to me and they'll ask me. Yeah. And then I'll be like, oh, it's going to be fine. You just have to do this. So really, in that experience, I now know the process of cancer. So, yeah, I think I've become a better person out of it. And it's kind of like, there's nothing I could have done. The cancer wasn't like, some people get obesity cancer because they're too fat or stuff like that. Like, that wasn't my type of cancer. So, like, there's nothing I could have done. Nothing that I need to change about my lifestyle. I wasn't.
And you were into boxing at that point, and I remember you saying in another interview that you just carried on. Yeah. You carried on training even through the chemotherapy. Yeah. Wasn't the chemotherapy a bit sort of grueling on you physically, or? It
wasn't grueling on me physically. It made me a bit tired.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I just need 2 coffees instead of 1.
But you carried on training. You didn't let it be an excuse to. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that so do you think that having that such a positive mindset and I mean, in your mind, did you think there was even the slightest chance you might die? Like, did you think?
No, I didn't think I was going to die. And I always had this, maybe it's weird, and maybe it will come back to me one day in 50 years, right? But I've always had this thought, like, if I was in a position where I'm going to die, I won't die. Maybe that's just, I've never been in that position, right? But, like, I never thought I was going to die from the treatment. I just had that little glimpse of, like, oh my God, I could have, what if, right? But I think that's everyone. When you get put to sleep for, like, an anesthetic thing, like, everyone thinks it's like 1 in a million chance that you die. So it's kind of like, what if I'm that 1 in? But that's just life, I guess. You can.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about dying from the anesthesia.
Yeah,
true. Dying from the cancer.
Yeah,
and a lot of people do die of cancer.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
But I think possibly what helps you through is your positive mindset. The fact that you never believed you would die. You just not like you got the diagnosis and you were like, oh no, there's a really good chance I'm going to die now.
Yeah.
You were like, oh, this is going to be an interesting experience.
Yeah.
Which is a strange, it's an unusual reaction to it, but maybe had a big part in you getting through it because it's like mind over matter.
Yeah, and from start of cancer treatment till the end, I was still training, but just because of the chemo, I put on like 15, if not 20 kilogram. Really? I was borderline 100 kilogram when at the start of the treatment.
What, you got fat then?
Yeah, I had a nice big like beer belly. Obviously, I wasn't drinking beer, but I had it looked like a beer belly, right? But now it's like, okay, well, I just need to lose it. So like every day I was in the gym, I wasn't doing as much cardio as I should have been, but that's because I couldn't. And so I couldn't do boxing training every day just like I used to because I had a portal catheter. Right. So they had to insert it, so they had to cut me open, put it in, stitch it back up. So if I got hit there during the treatment, then it would have just opened. Yeah. But other than that, I was...
So that's where the chemotherapy goes in?
Yeah, so they put a portal cath into here.
Does it stay, then something physically stays there, so they just plug it, they don't have to keep cutting you open and...
Yeah, no. Yeah. So it like stays inside you, then they put a pin through, like a needle every time they do the treatment.
That must be weird.
It was, but genuinely, it was... So it was weird, but when I got told I was getting that portal cath put in, I started YouTubing the procedure. Started YouTubing what I actually had to do. So what the treatment was, how it worked. I was pretty excited to just go like, ooh. Like, that's just how I've always been. And that's how, you could say I'm crazy or something. Say that I'm weird. But like that's just how I've always been. I've always seen like the positive in it. There's no positives to having a portcath in your chest looking like a weirdo, except for going like, ooh, have a look. Like there's absolutely no positives, but I'll just find it fun. Maybe because I'm still a kid. Maybe in a couple of years, I won't think like that anymore. But I was still. I never cried once during the cancer thing. When everyone around me, look, they were crying. Even people that didn't like me in school would message me, be like, "Oh, I just cried about you." Like, yeah, like I wasn't fussed at all. I had people that I never even knew. Right, this was before I even blew up in business. I had people that I didn't even know from like other schools and stuff message me. Like my old like big bullies would message me for like after years of not speaking. They always would message me. I was like, guys, I'm fine. I'm just looking.
And you were saying this is March last year.
Yeah.
So and it's January now. So this is only 10 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and we were saying earlier that maybe you should still be at school right now legally, but is it because of the cancer diagnosis that you've sort of, first of all, they started letting you have time off school, but now you've sort of dropped out of the system?
Yeah, so it's kind of like school. Yeah, school said to me, right, you can have as much time off as you want. Right,
so I'll have all of it off.
Yeah. So it was in a meeting just like this, in like, it was in the head teacher's office, right? Sat down, head teacher, head of year, which was the science teacher as well. Sat me down and said, right, we're going to give you as much time off as you need. If you need to go home early in the days, we're going to let you go. Ooh, okay. So I was like, okay, well, it's good. Obviously, I'd respect their decision because my head teacher, he did a lot for me in that time. I can't slag him for anything. I still rate him to this day, partially. But like, for that cancer time, he would treat me really well. So he let me go home whenever I wanted. If literally, I say to him, right, I'm going home now. He's like, yep, that's cool. I went home at 9 a.m. I walked in 8:45. I said, hey, so I'm going home now. He's like, yeah, that's cool. I had my gym stuff in my bag. I went straight to the gym. My mum didn't know any different. Because they wouldn't call my mum being like, Kaine's coming home because I got cancer. You know what I mean? They're not messaging my mum. So, like, my family wouldn't know. I just take the time. You take advantage of it, right?
So what did you do then? I mean, were you then going out and doing business, or were you just waiting?
So I was doing both.
or training, boxing.
Yeah, so I was doing all sorts. I was doing gym in the morning, and then 12 o'clock, 1, 2, 3-ish, I'd do business. And then after that, just...
At that stage, though, was that still the Amazon stuff?
So this time it was... I finished Amazon, and I was looking into the property stuff. So this was before I bought any advanced training, so like any of Samuel Leeds' training. Didn't buy any of his courses. I was just at the crash courses. Don't know much about property, but I would like message people. I'd message them. I'd be like...
Hey, so you were networking?
Yeah, I was networking. So I messaged people. So my Instagram account got blocked for like a couple of days because I was messaging so many people. You know when you message more than 100 people a day, your account gets blocked. I was just spamming like loads of different people. And then so I was booking calls with people. But I had nothing to say over the phone. If someone called me about property now, I know what to say. I can hold a conversation. I can speak to landlords for hours. I can't, not answer any of their questions. But back then, I'd be like, yeah, I want to get into property. Do you know anything? Have you got any deals for me? Have you got this? No. So most of my time was just spent in the gym and trying to network.
Yeah.
But and then like still to this day, like people messaging me that will like reply to my stories. Then I'll scroll to the top and realize that I've messaged them back then. And so I'm kind of like, well, this guy's fucking...
Or when you open up to message them, you see you have before.
Yeah.
You messaged them yeah.
This guy ignored me back then. If anything, one guy told me to piss off. Like, actually, PISSOFF. Like, actually. I was like, who's this guy messaging me now? Oh, well done. I want to work with you. If you worked with me then, you would have got like 50% of my business. Because I needed money back then. So, like, I think now when any newcomer messages me, and it was like, I want to get started in property, I'll be like, I'll ask the same question. I'll be like, okay, have you got any deals that I could bash you and sell for you? Have you done any advanced training where we can meet at networking events? But if not, let me help you get your first deal. I'll teach you how to find a deal. I'll do the numbers, see if it works, and if it's good, I'll sell it to my investor list. So now, because I'm well known in the space, it's kind of like a blessing.
Yeah.
And it's happened so quick. So like, I'm 16 now. In 8 years, I'm still only 24. And people that I meet that are 24, everyone's saying to them, "Oh, you're so young. Oh, I wish I got into it at your age." I'm like, I know
That's
more.
still young to be getting into it at 24. Yeah.
I know more than them. They're coming to me for advice. They're 24. I'm just getting started. These guys are just getting started being called young. I'm like, jeez, I've got loads of time. But and then,
So you had your cancer diagnosis, but had you got the all clear? Once you got the all, were they still just saying you can have as much time off? Or did they not?
Well, when I got the all clear, it was just after GCSEs finished. So it was like July, August time.
Right.
So
and then
So it was kind of like I already told them that I'd be dropping out anyway. So that's why they didn't like. And
they
even
didn't chase it. Yeah.
and even if I was meant to be in school now, no one is. My old school hasn't contacted me. Any colleges haven't contacted me. Sixth forms haven't contacted me. The government haven't contacted me. Or my parents say, "Why isn't Kaine in school?" So I'm dropped out. And if they offered me, I'd say no. But so I'm dropped out without unofficially signing the document saying, like, "Yeah, I'm dropping out." If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
It's like you've slipped out rather than
slipped out of school, made a load of money.
Yeah. So okay, let's go back to so how did you find out about Samuel Leeds? Because we know each other through the academy, through Samuel's academy. Tell us about how he came on the scene for you.
Yeah, so it would have been like TikTok videos. Like some of his videos like absolutely blow up when they get like millions of likes, right? So I would have seen one of them. But instead of me looking at his post and commenting like everyone else does on his post and goes, what a knobhead, I don't have 50 grand, I can't do this, I can't do that, give me advice. I'd be like, right, does this guy do any courses? Because most people that advertise themselves as being rich, they do courses. Andrew Tate, one of the richest guys that I know, not personally, but I know like online stuff, they'll have a course. Elon Musk, he sells Twitter. Like all these like rich
But he
people.
doesn't have a course.
Yeah, no, but he still like sells stuff that you can buy into. Like all millionaires, you can buy into them. So I looked in Samuel Leeds and he made it really easy. It was like, come to my free course. So I went on to these courses and he started speaking about rent to rent and passive income, how you wouldn't have to do anything for your money. It might take you a couple of weeks to get it set up, but after that, you ain't got to do anything. You give it to a management company, you make around £500-600 a month. So I was like, okay, I could do this. But then he would sell his £2,000 course. I couldn't afford that. Just off the back end of my Amazon business, I couldn't do that. So I ended up saving up. It was like birthday money. So obviously Christmas, as a kid, you get a lot of money. I've got like 4 or 5 different households giving me cards. Right? I had a lot of Christmas money coming in. And also I had extra birthday money coming in. So over that period, I must have had like 1,500 just in Christmas money and birthday money saved up. My birthday's at the end of February. I ended up asking my parents for a little bit of money because I want to do this. They were like, "No, you're stupid, but we're going to give it you anyway." So I was like, okay, fair enough. So I need to make it work because they don't believe in it.
Yeah.
And so I saved up £2,000. Literally, I had £2,500. No, 2,000.
So you'd already been to a lot of crash courses at that point.
I must have been to at least 6. I must have been to at least 6, like at least 6 £1 events. And then so on my 6th, 7th, I went £2,005 in my account. I spent my last 2,000 on this course. Right, my card kept getting declined because I'm a 16-year-old trying to spend £2,000. Barclays, they wouldn't let me do it. So I get another call, but I had some payment issues. But I ended up paying for this course, and so it was in March, like the back end of March. So my birthday was in February. Back end of March, I paid for the training.
Yeah.
And then so from that training, I had all the online stuff. So I knew what to do with deal sourcing. So they have like online training. So
and you'd already been to a lot of crash courses.
Yeah.
So, and in the crash courses, it doesn't hold back. It's not like he teaches you a little bit. He teaches as much as he possibly can in a day. It's just there's so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like on the online training that I paid for, one section was how to find deals. Second section was how to find investors. Okay. Third one was how to sell to investors. I was like, right, I've got everything that I need now. And then, so I started doing the process. I started doing the A, B, C, D, E, F, G like process, right? And then, but I still couldn't sell deals. And I got to the point where I did the in-person training. It's like a week of like in person. Samuel on stage. I got like 150 people in the room.
Yeah.
And then I ended up asking my nan.
That's the £2,000 thing.
Yeah, 2,000. But Samuel also has a £10,000 course. So I said to my nan, right, I really want to do this course. She was like, well, have you got any money? I can't give you any more. And I said, no, but I'm asking people for a loan. She was like, don't do that. Don't get in debt. Because it's kind of like everyone, or most normal people, brainwashed people, is like, don't get into any debt. I want to avoid debt. Right? So I was like, oh, right, okay. So I kept going around the room. One guy said to me, I'll give you 10 grand, but I want an 80 grand return.
No.
Literally, I remember him. I'm not going to say his name, but I do know him, and I'll send this clip to him. Right? He asked me for 80 grand return. He said, but I can give it back to him whenever I want. I was like, no. Right? I was like, no, because my nan's going to be the guarantor, and no, right, I'm not doing it. And so I end up speaking to another mentor that were on the academy, and he said, well, why don't you just see if your nan can get a loan for you? I was like, right, well, let me just go and ask her. She said, no, we can't do it. So I went back to him. He said, look, just go onto her banking app. Well, he told me to ask her first.
I was going to say, it doesn't sound like they're not telling you to hack your grandmother's bank account.
Get her to go on her banking app, because he's with Lloyds Bank. It's very easy to get a loan off Lloyds. See if she's eligible for a loan first. So I went onto the Lloyds banking app. I said, oh yeah, you can actually get this loan. She was like, she went red and everything. She was like, she didn't want to say no, because my nana, her like motto is she didn't grow up in England. She moved to England when she was around 40.
Okay, where's she from?
Georgia.
Okay.
Georgia. And her and my mum moved to England to get a better life. Then when my mum had me, I'm her like favourite of the whole family. Like, she looks after me, and my mum comes second. Like, I am her number one. She cares about me so much, right? And what she always says to me is, I'll do anything for you. Anything, right? But obviously she doesn't have money. So when I said to her, right, you can get this loan, look, and they approved it on the phone. One, she was happy that she could get a loan, because she never thought she could. But two, she said to me, well, I did tell you I'd do anything you wanted me to. And I was like, yeah. Can we do it? Can we do it then? Because we can just get the loan and go pay now. And she said, right, fine. So she clicked on it, got the loan within 10 seconds, the money was in the bank. And I went in and I paid for the academy. So the academy, what I paid for is 12 months mentorship. Yeah. Weekly calls with Samuel Leeds himself, mentoring calls whenever I want with different mentors on the academy, all the in-person training, all the networking, everything.
It's so much more than what you get. It's more than 6 times what you get from the £2,000 course. Yeah. Because the £2,000 course, when you go on the academy, you get 3 of them. So there's £6,000. But then on top of that, you get the weekly calls, the weekly mastermind Zoom calls, and then there's a different call every day with other mentors. And then you've got you can book a call with a mentor anytime, and some of them are solicitors, some of them are mortgage brokers, and then there's the inner circles, and then you've got the online tools like Rate My Deal, Rate My Refurb.
And it also makes it a lot easier to sell to people that are on the course, because look, there's over 1,000 people that are on this course, right? Yeah. I'm doing it because I'm trying to make money, but people are on this course because they already have money and they're just trying to make more money. Yeah. So I'm tapping into people that have like 400 grand sat in their bank. Yeah. They know how the academy works. They know what I'm doing because they've been taught the same skills that I've been taught. So it's easy to sell to them, number one, because they know what you're doing. They know that they have to pay up front, sign contracts. I'm a part of PIMS. They're a mediation service. So that's cool. But number 2, Rate My Deal. If I'm trying to sell to an investor, then I tell them, okay, well, this deal just got rated 90% on Rate My Deal. You need to take this deal. They can't say no because I can show them the Rate My Deal thing. So it cements, one, it's good for networking, but 2, it cements confidence in you, because I've met you through the academy now. You might have some money sat in your bank. And if I say to you, right, I've got this deal, but we've never met before, but one of the mentors are rated 90% on Rate My Deal. Yeah. And you've got the money to do it and you want this deal.
Then I know that I'm not just taking your word for it.
Exactly.
Whereas someone else who's not in the academy who doesn't know what Rate My Deal is, they would still be just taking your word for it because they don't know they don't know that that means something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, imagine a 16-year-old that you never knew trying to sell to, and he's not too confident, he's a bit shy. You're not going to take his deal.
No.
But even a 16-year-old that's not too confident, a little bit shy, but says, "Oh, you got rated 90%. Rate my deal." Okay, tell me a little bit more. Like, so that was kind of how I was selling my first couple deals. But like, also, I've never been shy. I'll walk into a room that no one knows me before. I'll be the loudest guy in the room. I'll have a couple of friends before I leave. Right? I'll walk into a room where no one knows me. I'll just start shouting. Like, that's just me. Right? So like, I'm not one to be shy. So even when I was networking at these networking events, I was never shy anyway. So I was very easy to.
So, but then so when you go around doing viewings and stuff, what do the estate agents think of you?
Well, no one's ever asked me my age. No one's ever doubted me either. Every estate agent has treated me professionally.
Yeah.
I think it's because I don't dress as an average 16-year-old. I don't go to a viewing in a Nike Tech fleece. I don't go to a viewing in mountain gear. You know what I mean? Like,
okay, I'd say you look a bit older than 16,
Yeah.
but you don't look not a lot older.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not, still young. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it's just the way I speak. Like, I'm very good at.
Once you show you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Because if I'm calling an estate agent, say for example, I never bought any training, right? I started speaking to estate agents. Have you got any properties that need work doing? I can get my builder in. Who is this guy? Right, fuck off. Right, and so now I'll be like, right, have you got any flip opportunities? I've got a builder ready to go. I've done this before. Here's my portfolio. I've got 300 grand cash. I haven't got 300 grand cash, but I know someone that does.
Yeah.
And I know if this estate agent gives me a good deal, then this guy that has 300 grand, I'll charge him 3 grand for making all these phone calls. Then he'll give me 3 grand for just doing that.
Yeah.
So the guy with 300 grand isn't bothered about giving me 3 grand at all. So that was kind of my business model from the start. And then now what I do is I invest in rent service accommodation. So I'll find a property deal, or it will get passed to me, and then I'll say, no. So I'll get a deal that I can rent out, and then I can put it on Airbnb, and I make a good profit. I have my spreadsheets that I have to, fill in detail. But if it makes a good profit, then I'll put some money into it. I have money saved up because I've been deal sourcing for a little while. I've must have sold like over 10 deals in my time. So that's like over 45 grand turnover. So which is pretty good.
And that's in half a year, or 8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I sold my first deal in March, April, May, June. Oh, right. I sold my first deal in August. August, September, October, November, December.
6 months.
About 5-6 months, yeah.
Yeah.
And then so I have this money, I have this cash pot now, so I start investing it into these.
So hang on a minute, you haven't even done a tax return yet, because you're still in your first year of business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you've got that. Don't forget, you've got to pay tax.
Yeah. And I do have an accountant,
Right.
so I'm just onboarding him now. And the way I got referred to him is we have to be very, just in case anyone in HMRC is watching this, right? Hopefully they're not. But this accountant, I know a guy that makes a lot of profit. A lot of profit in his business. He showed me his bank account. But on paper, he's made nothing. That's my accountant. So I shouldn't have to say any more now, just in case HMRC or I've just been in the newspaper. My name's getting out there. I shouldn't say a lot more. But on paper, I haven't made a single penny.
Yeah, and like, let's just stress, like, there's legal ways to do that if you're in a certain situation. If you're borrowing money, it's a way of releasing money that you've made, but when you're borrowing it, you don't pay tax.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about is not illegal.
Yeah.
If your accountant's doing it, it's not illegal. It's just he's finding loopholes for you, legal loopholes. Yeah.
Yeah, because I could make 3 grand, but with that 3 grand, I had to pay for a £250 train ticket. Well, I was just train ticket
so
£250. Well,
that's not like anything. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. You're just making sure you're including all your expenses.
Yeah.
That's not dodgy tax evasion.
Yeah.
That's just literally. That's what business is. That's yeah. So, okay. So hang on. So I was saying, how did Samuel Leeds come into it? And so you borrow the money from your nan, the extra 10 grand on top of the 2 grand.
Yeah.
To Yeah, so you sort of twisted her arm a little bit to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's still less than 6 months ago. So
Yeah, true.
yeah, so you're doing very well. So yeah, we've talked about your investors. If somebody wanted to work with you, can they be like completely hands off and you do sourcing and setting it up, staging, and then hand it over to management? You don't do the management yourself, right?
No, I don't do the management. So
who do you work with for that?
So I work with different management companies. So like I have a different guy that manages my London property, a different guy that manages my Wolverhampton property, a different guy that manages my Chester property. It's just because I invest in different areas. I've got a hotel in Blackpool. I've got a property in my hometown, Chester. I've got a property in Wolverhampton. I've got a property in London. I can't use one management company for the same thing because one management company can't do it all over. My management company in Wolverhampton lives in Wolverhampton. Right. So it's easy for them to manage.
Yeah.
Right? My London property, the management guy, he lives in and around London. It's easy for him to manage. Any emergency call-outs, he can go. For my Chester property, the guy lives in Chester.
Yeah. So
it's quite simple. And once a hotel is up and running, the management company is going to be in Blackpool. So, but what I do is I will find a property that you could make good money on. But say, for example, the total investment is £20,000. I don't have £20,000. Or maybe I do, but I don't want to invest in this deal, or it's not my cup of tea, or So I have a group chat of like 250 investors that I've just grown over time, networking events, on my Instagram, marketing. 250 people in this group chat. So I'll package it and do a little spread. I'll be like, look, it's in London. Total investment is £9,000. You're going to make £500 a month at 60% occupancy. At 70% occupancy, you're going to make £1,000. And all this, I put it in a pack and say, right, look, if you want this deal, send me a message. We'll discuss the next steps. So I can post a deal like that, and within half an hour, I get £4,000 in the bank.
Really?
Yeah.
That quick you get some?
So last week, I sold 10 of them.
Wow.
So, and then what I do with them investors is I don't stage it myself, because for staging properties, people charge like £4,000 for staging. I don't do that. And I personally, to be perfectly honest, I can't bother with staging. But I know a staging company that will give me a discount if they go through me. Yeah. Okay, so I can pass them on to the staging company if the investor doesn't want to stage it. But most investors would be like, okay, I'm happy to do it. So they'll go and stage it. And once it's staged, I say to them, right, do you know a management company? If not, I'll get you one of my management companies. So my Wolverhampton guy, I've given him a property that I sold to an investor. He will go and manage that. Then for the guy that manages my London property, I've given him 5 properties in and out of London. So and then some people like to manage it on their own, and some are too far out. They know a management company. So some different people go to different areas. But I help them getting ready and getting live.
Yeah. So let's say, theoretically, maybe there's someone watching who's got 10K and they want to invest in a rental SA. First of all, how much money can they make?
Yeah. So if you got 10 grand, that is more than what you need. My Wolverhampton property, I needed 5 grand.
Okay.
For my London property, I needed 8 grand. For my Chester property, I needed 5 grand. You don't really need any more than 8 grand to invest in these types of deals, because
and that includes your fee?
Includes in my fee, yeah. So for my London property, I paid a 3 grand fee as well. So like including my fee, you're looking at around 8 grand tops.
Right.
And that doesn't, if it's already furnished, then take off 3 grand. Because furnishing is very expensive, but most properties come furnished, come with TVs, come with nice painted walls and stuff. So that's less of a cost to the investor. Yeah. And then, talking about profit wise, it depends what area, because my London property, I put 8 grand in, and at 70%, we'll make around £1,000 a month. And then if we're fully occupied, we'll make like £2,500 a month profit. So like that's
profit.
Yeah.
That's after the platform fees, like Airbnb take their fee, and then the manager's going to take their fee. Yeah. And that's usually around 15% each, I've seen. Yeah.
So after all fees,
2,000.
Yeah. And then so my Chester property, I think we needed 5 grand all in, but that was already fully furnished. So it's nice luxury standard. They've done it up to a really beautiful property. It is. On that one, at around 80%, we'll be making 2,000, and that's a joint venture with someone. But that joint venture partner is also managing the property.
Okay.
So we haven't really got to pay that much more for management. He's charged like an extra 10% to manage it.
Yeah.
So
now, service accommodation income can be seasonal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and I guess you haven't done a full year,
No,
right?
no, I
so,
haven't.
You haven't even done a peak. Well,
I haven't done a peak.
You haven't done a peak
I haven't
season.
done summer
so
yet,
the
no.
money you're talking about now is like low season.
Yeah.
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 And how long do these deals normally last? Is it like 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. So like the average, especially for my properties, is 5 years average, but they can last up to 7 years, and even more like 15. But most of these deals, they come with an annual rent review, meaning that at the end of every year, the rent will increase by inflation. So Barclays Bank inflation might be like 4.37%. Okay, we'll increase.
Well, there's like the Bank of England publishes a official inflation rate.
Yeah. So we'll increase the rent by that much, just so the landlord isn't making less and less every year.
Yeah.
So the landlord's still making the same, just across a period of time. But say for example, I'm investing in London, and then there's a flood of rentals in London, and the price goes up by double.
Yeah.
Then the landlord might say, "Hey, look, you need to."
So you got the opportunity to pull out.
Yeah.
If you don't want to pay the higher rent.
Well, the landlord doesn't. Because the contracts will be signed before we actually get the keys or actually go ahead with the actual property. So we will say to the landlord, right, our rent will only go up by inflation, just because that's fair for you, that's fair for us.
Yeah.
We're paying the bills anyway. So our rent will go up.
Because the bills will probably go up. Electricity companies, they put their prices up with inflation too. So. But then you can put the rents up as well with inflation. So
Yeah. So like, and then also, for the landlord can't just say a year into the contract, all right, I don't want you to have it anymore. Well, we've only got our $8,000 back that we've just put into the property.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been doing so well over the year or whatever.
Oh, it takes that time. It's just
yeah. So like, what, you want your keys back now? That's just a waste of time. What? No. But in the contract, we would always put the landlord can't pull out early.
Yeah.
So that's always in before
so
we
can they
sign.
are they locked into the end unless you want to pull out?
Yeah. So it's sort of like, if we come to a mutual verbal agreement, the renters can always pull out. And ultimately, in the contracts, it says, since we're a company let, say for example, if you want to rent a home to live in, you would rent in your personal name, and you wouldn't have to set up a company. You're personally living in there, right? But my company is in the property. My company is renting out the property to other tenants, right? So it's called a company let agreement.
Yeah.
So that if that company doesn't pay rent, then they've got no rights, because it's just a company. It's just a paper. It's just some online company, right?
Yeah.
So,
but they don't have tenants' rights.
Yeah.
And tenants have a lot of rights.
Yeah. So like, I've heard cases where if a tenant doesn't pay rent, they can be in the property for like up to 6 months before they can actually leave. In our agreement, it says if company Kaine's Gadgets doesn't pay rent for a certain amount of time, they're allowed to get kicked out after 21 days, and they can't do anything about it. So if I don't pay my rent if I don't pay my rent between them 21 days, I get kicked out, or my company gets kicked out. But that's cool.
So in that way, the landlord has that added security in that you don't have the same rights as a normal tenant.
Yeah.
But as long as you keep on top of your rent, then they can't kick you out.
Yeah. No.
Or they might be able to come and negotiate with you, but you have to go on your own. Your own accord.
Yeah, and I'd be open to it. So, say for example, down the line, right, mid-summertime, whatever, they're like, right, I really want to move back into the property, or look, I really want to do it myself. Okay, just pay me double what I've spent on the property. I've spent $8,000 on this property. I've only just been breaking even. Now we're at April time. It's spring, about to become summer.
Yeah.
It's about to be peak season. That's cool. You can have the property back, but give me $16,000 because that's what I was going to make over this summertime.
Yeah.
And I've never got into that situation yet or scenario, but it's in the contract. They signed the contract a year ago.
So I'm just trying to think about it as if I was to work with you as an investor, or somebody else, maybe someone watching might want to work with you. So what do I have to actually do other than hand over the £8,000?
Yeah, so all you have to do is be committed, because some investors that I work with will take on a deal and they'll message me at 1 o'clock in the morning. This happens all the time. They'll message me at 1 o'clock in the morning and go, right, I'm really nervous about this. Can you please... and they end up pulling out the deal. So I'll be like, right, okay, that's fine. Then I'll get another investor who takes on the deal. A month later, they're making £1,500 a month profit, right? They've got the same management company I recommended. It's the same process. It's fully furnished, so they went in. Then that investor then messages me a month later, yeah, you got any more of them deals? Or is that deal still available? It's like, well, no, it isn't. And then for me, it's kind of like, well, were they a time waster? Because I can't do this again. If, say, for example, you pay me $3,000 now, I've got a deal. You pay me £3,000. I've got your $3,000. I might put it towards travelling down to the property because I live in Chester. I've got property in London. I've got to spend like £250 just on a train ticket because I like to get first class, of course. Right? So, like, I'll spend some money. I've got some fees. Even if I was driving a car, £60 for petrol here and there. Like, I've got fees to pay as well.
Yeah. And
then, say, for example, after 14 days, which is the end of your cooling off period, you say, right, I want my money back. I'd be like, well, what? Because we've done all this. We're about to complete on the property. The property might have already been live. So all you have to be, really, as an investor, I make it very hands-off. You might have to give a few WhatsApp messages. You might have to provide some address details. But that literally, as an investor coming to me, you don't have to do anything. I saw absolutely everything. Right?
But hang on. So, because people say that, but I've been an investor, and there are some things like, you got to set up the utilities in your name and internet. So that and then it's a company so it's better to do it as a company.
Yeah, so you need
to set up a limited
yeah.
company. So you got to have an accountant and a bank account for the company.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to for our potential investors out there. I'm just trying to give them a more realistic view of what's involved.
Yeah.
But because it can be very hands off. But it's not completely hands off. It's not just I give you the money and then you start putting money in my bank.
Yeah.
No, and also I'm going to have a contract. There's going to be a contract which is not between me and you. It's between me and the landlord.
Yeah.
So I got to make sure I go through that and I'm careful with that.
Yeah. So there's a few bits and bobs, but nothing that will take more than half an hour. Setting up utilities takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Setting up the council tax, that's one phone call. Right. Yeah. All right. If you got a shit council that's not answering the phone, it might take up to an hour. Right, but it's very simple. Are
you saying then that for $6-7 grand investment, I can get $1,000 a month?
Yeah.
And then that might be on a 5-year contract, so that's 60 grand return from a $5 grand investment
on these deals
over 5 years.
Yeah. On these deals that I got, the average return on investment is like 260%. I did this calculation the other night. 260%. I just pass these out. I don't even take these on. I took on 4 properties in 2 months. Difference between me and some other investors is because if I was selling deals and I've never done the process before, I can't make it hands off because I've never signed up for Wi-Fi in my own name. I've never set up a company in my own name. I've never done this and never done that. I'm like, oh, right, I don't know what to do. But for me, if I'm taking on 4 properties in 2 months, right, I know what I'm doing. So when I'm selling to an investor, well, I just say, oh, you just have to do this. It's not as hard as that. I mean, if you really don't want to stage it, well, you're just going to have to pay for someone to stage it. And if you really don't want to do this, you can just pay for someone to do it. Like, if you do... Yeah, if you don't
So being on the academy, you've learned all these other people who've set up... They're like... What's happened on the academy is like, there's deal sources and things, but then people are like, oh, I need some help staging. I don't know what I'm doing. So someone sets up a staging company, or someone sets up a cleaning company.
Yeah.
So there's all this other support that you've got access to.
Yeah.
To offer this complete package that means the landlord can be almost hands off, but not. There's a couple of things. Yeah, but apart from like you said, half an hour of things. Admin basically.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you just said landlord as well. Because obviously you've rented for a company. Some people say that you're not a landlord. Is he still in the room? No, he's gone. No, he's gone. But like some people say that if rented for a company, you're not a landlord. So I'm glad that you said that. But it's a very hands-off process. Yeah. There's nothing major you have to do. Like, obviously, you might want to come see the property, but if you didn't want to come see, you don't even have to see the property. That's how hands-off it is. Like, obviously, there has to be an element of trust. If it's like, say, for example, you're trying if you're trying to sell me something, you send me some pictures. All right, here's some money. I'm going to put it into this. If you never see the property, I'd set up an Airbnb listing. and put the same pictures up that you've seen.
So hold on. One thing is, my long-term commitment is to the landlord, not the sourcer.
Yeah.
And so, if we get through but do you maintain a business relationship with the client? Because because what if you say, oh, it's going to make 1,000 a month, and then it's only making 600? Can I come to you and say, look, I mean, and I appreciate that would, but people have to appreciate that is a risk they take.
Yeah.
So they need to do their own due diligence as well, and look at what. But you can help with that to show comparables and things like that. But yeah, the long term. But you're not just like giving them the deal, putting them in contact with the
and then
with the landlord, and then washing your hands.
Yeah. No, and like also every deal that I've sold, I always message them and be like, how's your property going? How's it going? Like, I've sold like BRRs. How's the development going? How's this going? But ultimately, for me, as a business perspective, I already sold. They've already got the keys. They're with my management company. I'll keep them on my WhatsApp. I have a special list on WhatsApp. You can add like lists to people that have bought off you before. So I have a list, and I'll message these people every now and then. But for me, if you're selling to someone, you message them every hour of every day. That's just how to sell. You have to be active. You need to be hard on people, right? But like after that, once you've sold, and once they're up and running, and once they're on Airbnb getting bookings, that's what it's like. I'm so glad that we've worked together. Looking forward to doing some work again. Stay on my group chat. If a deal comes and you're interested, you know the process and you trust me, right? Yeah. And then so one of my investors now, he's actually doing the joint venture with me on the hotel. He replied to my group. I posted a deal. He replied to it. I didn't just call him. I FaceTimed him. I said, "Do you want this deal?" He was like, "Yeah." He asked me, "Whereabouts is it?" It was near Brighton. It was over more like Hastings way. And I said, "Yeah, mate, have it. It's £3,000." He sent me the money. I showed him the property, and but that's because I've already done business with him before. Yeah. So like, it's also having that trust element is really good. Once you've sold to someone once, it's very easy to sell to someone twice. But also, once you've sold to someone, it's very easy to just ignore them. It's very easy to just be like, all right, I sold you the property now. Deal with him. I'm not your point of contact. It's him. That isn't my business model. So like, maybe if it's a co-source deal, say for example, you have a deal but don't have investors, and I say to you, right, I'll sell it to my investor list. Once I've sold it, I'm going to pass them on to you. You are now the investor's point of contact, because I haven't found the property.
Because I'm the one who's
providing the deal
and saying, setting the expectations.
Yeah.
So if they don't meet those expectations,
it's on you.
It's on me. And then, although I may not. I mean, it's the investor who's financially exposed to that risk.
Yeah.
But it's my reputation that's on the line.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's also mine. So that's why, like, if a deal comes to me, I have to go through it. I have to, reference it. I have to do all the checks.
So how many of the deals that you sell, how many are you finding yourself, and how many are you co-sourcing?
Yeah, so most likely 70% I find myself, but then 30% will be co-source. Because co-source partners, right, it's easy to scale. Because if I find, say for example, there's 10 deals, right, obviously 70%, 7 of them are mine, right? Then I post all them 7, all them 7 go, but I haven't got any left. But I've now got a hot investor list. Then, well, I may as well say hey, you've got a deal, you're struggling to sell it. Well, look, I've just sold 7.
Yeah.
If you want me to sell yours, I can literally get that wrapped up for you in the next hour.
Yeah, because over time, at the start, you can go out and find deals, but you don't have an investor list.
Yeah.
But over time, you build the investor list, because every time you do a deal, the deal's gone. But your investor list just keeps sort of growing and growing. So over time, it gets easier and easier to sell the deal. Whereas at the beginning, it's easier to find the deal. So you're already getting to the stage where your list has grown, and it's easier to sell than to find. Is that true?
Yeah. So it's like, it's a lot easier to sell deals for me now than it is to find them. Because to find a property deal might take me 2 days of work. If I co-source it, they've done the 2 days of work. They come to me when I've got a hot investor list. And then I'll check all the numbers. Takes me about half an hour to an hour max, and then I'll sell it. I'm confident in it, and then I'll sell it.
So, are you open to other people who deal sources contacting you to co-source with them?
Yeah, but and then also what deal sources do, because some deal sources are absolutely terrible, absolutely terrible to work with. One, they don't answer the phone, right? Like, I sold a deal. I was calling this woman at least 15 times. She could have reported me for harassment, right? But I sold one of her deals, right? And she wasn't replying to me. She wasn't. And the investors down my phone, are you going to send me the address, mate? You know what I mean? And then she wasn't getting back to me. Oh, her phone died. But, like, they're the most horrible people to work with, because one, that deal didn't go through because the investor had to wait 2 hours to get the address or any pictures, right? All I did was go on the property market intel for the postcode. But I give the guy the postcode, but then he wanted the full address. So it's kind of like with co-sourcing, you have to be on it. So now when I co-source deals, I say, right, send me your spreadsheet, because I'll do my own. Send me some pictures of the property, because if you're saying it's furnished but it's only got a bed in there and no TV, it's not furnished. It's part furnished. Send me the full address. I'll have to sign an NDA and we'll get it sold for you in the next hour, because I'll do my checks. And then I'll sell the deal. But I'd never do it without doing any prior checks and stuff.
Yeah, because your reputation on the line as well.
Yeah, it's my reputation. And it's also like some deal sources say, oh, it's no deposit. Then you get to it, it's like 12 months deposit. Well, my investor hasn't got 24 grand. He's got 5 grand in the bank. He thought it was a fully furnished property. Now he's got to buy 4 TVs. Now he's got to do this. Now he's got to pay 24 grand deposit. Like, there's some deal sources that have that. Yeah. And then that's why some of the deals can fall through. But that's just deal sourcing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, amazing. So, I am kind of interested in doing some business with you. I've recently set up a rent-to-rent company.
Okay.
I've got my first deal getting set up at the moment. I'm going away for a month next month, but we should talk after that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if anyone else wants to do business with you, where can they find you? Tell the camera there.
Yeah. So I have a big profile on Instagram, and I use my Instagram for absolutely everything. Everything that I'm doing business-wise all goes on my Instagram. Also, I have a link to my property WhatsApp group chat. So any deal that I come across goes onto this group chat, and then they get sold in between the hour. So obviously growing that list is a goal of mine. So for you to join that list will be absolutely great. Give me a message on Instagram and I'll send you that WhatsApp link over if you want to get started in property.
Okay, Kaine, thank you so much for coming on. I'm looking forward to getting to know you better over the next few months and maybe doing business with you. Yeah. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Okay, well, if you are still watching, thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up and leave us a comment. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure you're subscribed on whatever platform you're on. Leave us a review as well. All that stuff really helps. But the main thing is, head on over to our website, self-unemployed.co.uk, and there you'll be able to enter your email address. And once you've done that, you'll get invited to join us when we are recording future episodes. They're going to go out as live streams on YouTube, but not to the public, only to people who are on that mailing list. So if you do that, you'll be able to interact with us, ask questions as we're recording future episodes. I'll see you next time.